So today I'm going to do a video on rodent control, or attempts to control rodents. You know, they're everywhere. They breed really fast. You're never going to get rid of them, but you can make attempts to control them. Out here we have some destructive types. We have the pack rat, which, you know, will basically they can get into your car engine, all of that into that compartment, and they can chew your wiring up. And if you leave your car out there long enough, they'll make nests. I have a truck I left in the yard. I throw lights onto the engine at night, and the light wasn't on. And anyway, I went out there to check it, and they were already in there. I mean, it had only been off for whenever since the sun went down. Anyway, they do a lot of damage. It can cost you a lot of money to get your cars fixed and all that. Then we have every bunch of other standard little rodents. If you have like they can get into your car. So if you have like a Toyota, especially, Toyotas have big holes up under where the wipers are. And I'm going to do a video on how to fix that, because Toyotas, we used to get them all in the wife's van. And, you know, then you got all these other kind of little rodents around here. And then we have those Sonoran ground squirrels. They look like miniature prairie dogs. And they're not super destructive, really. But what happens is that they tunnel under everything. And, you know, if you have a gopher, if you had gophers, they'll get in there. Anyway, they're starting to encroach on the house. So I have a couple of different, well, several different ways of trying to manage them. I'm not a big fan for rodents anyway. I'm not a big fan of poisons because, you know, you can have secondary die-off, right? If you poison a rodent and then, you know, your other birds of prey come and get them, or, you know, your vultures and crows and that sort of stuff come and get them, then they can die off too. And so we don't really want to do any of that. So I try to use and find different methods that don't involve poison. Now, in addition to being destructive, they carry disease, right? You can get, I think the hanta virus is one of them. They even carry like the plague. And here in Arizona, there have been recent cases of people dying from the plague. I think the last one I read about was a biologist up in northern Arizona got it from a mountain lion. You know, it's just, so they carry disease. They're just nasty. They'll destroy your stuff, and they really need to be controlled. So I have a couple of methods that I use. This is a method that I'll stick by a doorway. Doorways and places like that. It's basically a container. It doesn't have to be a clear container. And I cut little holes out. They're little, so your big rats are not going to get in these holes, but your little mice will get in there. And what I do is I take, you know, just a little bit of peanut butter, and I, you know, put it on the kick plate, or whatever that's called, the trip plate. And then I just set it back in here, and this I'll place by a door. Similar concept to what you'll see those professional rodent boxes, except I'm sure they don't have snap traps in them. The next thing I do is either you can use plaster of Paris or baking soda. I guess the idea is that they can't really digest either one of these, and this hardens up in their gut, and they, you know, go back to the nest and die. And this basically, this will, I guess they say that rodents can't belch or burp. I don't know if that's true. I have seen a reduction in the number of them. So what I do is I take, people use flour, they add cup of soup, whatever. I basically use this Jiffy cornmeal mix, corn muffin. I mix that with equal parts of either baking soda or plaster of Paris. So either one, you try them and see which one works. I think I like the plaster of Paris idea because I don't know that I'm really sold on the idea that they can't burp. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. But I can tell you right now, once the moisture in their intestines starts getting a hold of this, if something's going to bind them up, it'll bind them up. So this is what we do: equal parts muffin mix and plaster of Paris. I have a couple of these traps I set out. One thing that I didn't mention about rodents is, so when you have rodents, you have snakes. And when you have snakes out here, you have rattlesnakes. And, you know, as much as I'm all about sharing the environment with things, rattlesnakes are not something that you really want to be messing around with. I remove, so about this much, I remove 2 to 4 of them a year from my property. And it can be sketchy dangerous. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix about the same amount of plaster of Paris. I might go a little bit heavier. All right, so I'm going to do 1 so it's even, and then I think there was a little bit more, so we'll call it like a heaping cup load here. All right. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to mix, you know, so now you just mix it up. You want to get it good mix. You want them to be able to smell the cornmeal in there. It's got sugar and whatever, so yeah, that smells pretty good. Hopefully, you know, they're eating through this and takes care of them. So any container like this will work. Just cut a hole out big enough for them to get into it. So universally, I think everything loves peanut butter. So I'm going to try an experiment. I've heard of people making, you know, peanut butter balls using like different poisons with the peanut butter, but I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up some peanut butter, a good amount of it, because I don't want to make a lot of these, right? Going to mix up some peanut butter, and we're going to mix up some plaster of Paris until it gets to a consistency, I don't know, say like cake batter. And we're going to see whether or not, then we'll roll it up into balls, and then we'll see whether or not it actually does what I'm hoping it does. So we'll see. Just let's mix this up and see. And I've seen people, they make balls out of baking soda and other things as well. I'm doing plaster of Paris, like I said before, because I think the plaster of Paris actually, I like the concept of it better than the baking soda. I just don't want these things, I don't want to give these things like a really good meal and have them just go belch it off, you know, and be back the next day fatter than they were the day before. So I'm basically looking for the little bit thicker. I don't really want to see it. I want to be able to see the plaster of Paris in there. I don't want to just see peanut butter. I want to know that I'm getting my money's worth out of this stuff. So it looks like we're getting pretty close to what this peanut butter can absorb. Like I was saying, I've seen people say that they make out of that cornmeal or flour, they make a mixture and they mix water in there. But I was thinking to myself, you know, how do you mix water in with, you know, plaster of Paris and not really ruin the way that the plaster of Paris works? If it works, fine. I mean, I don't doubt it necessarily. I'm going to try a different approach here. So I'm going to knead this now, because this is getting to be the consistency that I'm looking for. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of portion these out. I don't really want them big, right? But I want decent size. Dab up everything I got. I have a couple of containers here. And again, you just cut a hole out of the lid so that the little rodents can get in there. What I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna add half of these, well, however many, into each one. And the balls are actually kind of cool because you can, you know they're in the things because it gets all disturbed, from them moving around in there. But these you'll be able to see